6 months after the Vorthok surrender, the galaxy celebrated the greatest peace festival in recorded history. On Nexus Prime, representatives from hundreds of worlds gathered to sign the new Galactic Accords. The treaty promised an end to large-scale warfare and the beginning of a new age of cooperation. Admiral Jin-Ho stood at the observation deck, watching the celebration ships fire colorful displays into space. His promotion to Admiral of the newly formed Human Defense Corps had surprised many coalition leaders. They hadn't expected humans to want their own military organization. "Quite a party," said a familiar voice behind him. Jin-Ho turned to see Admiral Veltar approaching. The Altarian looked older than he had 2 years ago, though his blue skin still gleamed under the station's lights. "Yes, sir, well deserved after everything we've been through." Veltar joined him at the observation window. "Admiral Jin-Ho, may I ask you a personal question?" "Of course." "Are you happy the war is over?" Jin-Ho considered the question carefully. "Happy that beings are no longer dying?" "Yes." "Happy that the Vorthok threat is gone?" "Yes." "Happy that there's peace?" "Absolutely." "But my people are very good at warfare, Admiral. It seems wasteful not to use that skill for something constructive." Veltar felt a chill run through him. "What do you mean by constructive?" "Making sure this kind of war never happens again." In her private chambers, Elder Da-Hyun was reviewing psychological profiles of human personnel through a coalition space. What she found confirmed her worst fears. The humans hadn't just won the war, they had documented everything. Every tactic used by every species. Every weakness discovered, every strength observed. They had created the most complete military intelligence database in galactic history, but more disturbing was what they were doing with that information. Human advisors were now present in the military organizations of every coalition species. They were helping their former allies improve their defensive capabilities, making them more efficient, more effective, more controllable. Dion activated her communication system and sent a message to Captain Jin-Ho, now Admiral Jin-Ho. "We need to talk." The meeting took place in a small conference room away from the celebration. Elder Da-Hyun arrived to find not just Jin-Ho, but his entire senior staff. Lieutenant Sun Mi, now Colonel Sun Mi, Engineer Min Ki, now Chief Technology Advisor. All the humans who had started this journey at Kepler Station. "Elder Da-Hyun," Jin-Ho said politely, "you wanted to speak with us? I want to understand what you've become." Jin-Ho gestured for her to sit. "We've become what we always were. Humans trying to protect our friends and allies by learning how to control them." Sun Mi spoke up. "Elder, we prefer the term guide. We're helping coalition species develop better defense strategies." "Defense against whom? The Vorthok are no longer a threat." "You've made sure of that." "Defense against the next threat," Min Ki explained. "There will always be someone who chooses violence over cooperation. When that happens, the galaxy should be ready." Da-Hyun's large eyes began to glow. "I've touched your minds during this conversation. You're not preparing for the next threat. You're managing the current situation to prevent threats from ever emerging. Is that wrong?" asked Taiwan, now Director of Galactic Communications. "You're reshaping civilizations without their knowledge. We're helping them become their best selves," Buna corrected. She was now Chief Medical Advisor for Interspecies Relations, just like we did with the Vorthok. Da-Hyun stood up from her floating chair. "The Vorthok asked for your help after they surrendered. These species don't know you're manipulating their development." "We prefer optimizing," Seok Jin said. He was now Strategic Planning Director for the Coalition. And the results speak for themselves. Crime is down across all Coalition worlds. Interspecies conflicts have decreased by 90%. Trade and cultural exchange are at historic highs. "Because you're controlling everything," Jin-Ho's voice remained calm. "Elder, humans learned long ago that freedom without security is chaos. Security without freedom is oppression. We're helping the galaxy find the balance between the two." Da-Hyun felt a wave of psychic fear wash over her. "You've appointed yourselves as guardians of galactic civilization. Someone has to do it," Sun Mi said simply. We've seen what happens when no one takes responsibility for preventing conflicts. Later that evening, Dahayan met privately with Admiral Veltar in his quarters. The Altarian was reviewing reports from across coalition space. "The humans are in every major decision-making body now," he said without looking up. "Military advisors, trade negotiators, cultural exchange coordinators, technology consultants. And every report shows improvement in efficiency and cooperation," Dahayan noted. "Yes, it's remarkable how much better everything works with human input." Dahayan floated closer to his desk. "Veltar, they're not just advising anymore. They're managing galactic civilization like it's a complex machine. Is that necessarily bad? Look at the results. Today the results are good. But what happens when the humans decide a species isn't cooperating properly? What happens when they determine that someone needs to be reformed, like the Vorthek?" Veltar finally looked up from his reports. "Elder, are you saying the humans are a threat?" "I'm saying the humans have become the most powerful force in the galaxy, and they did it without anyone noticing because they were too busy being grateful for human help. So what do you suggest we do about it?" Dahayan was quiet for a long moment. "Nothing, because they're right." "What? The humans are right about everything. Their methods work. Their strategies are effective. Their guidance improves every situation they touch. The galaxy is safer, more prosperous, and more peaceful because of human involvement. Then what's the problem?" "The problem is that we're no longer in control of our own destiny. The humans are. And they're so good at it that we don't even mind." The Peace Festival continued for 3 more days. On the final night, Ambassador Taewoo gave a speech to the assembled representatives. 2 years ago, Elder Dahayan warned this council never to use humans for war, he began. She was right to be concerned. Humans do approach warfare differently than other species. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the audience. "We don't fight for territory or resources or glory. We fight to solve problems permanently. When humans go to war, we go to eliminate the conditions that made war necessary." The audience listened carefully. "The Vorthek Empire isn't just defeated. It's been reformed into something that will never threaten anyone again. Not because we conquered them, but because we helped them choose a better path." Taewoo paused, looking around the assembly. "Elder Dahayan was right to warn you about us, but she was also right to trust us. Humans are dangerous to those who choose violence. We're dangerous to those who oppress others. We're dangerous to those who profit from suffering. But we're not dangerous to those who choose cooperation, freedom, and peace." As the assembly applauded, Elder Dahayan sat in her section and watched the human ambassador. His words were reassuring, but his mind revealed the deeper truth. The humans had become the galaxy's guardians whether anyone asked them to or not. They would protect galactic civilization from any threat, internal or external. They would guide species toward better choices. They would solve problems before they became crises, and they would do all of this whether the galaxy wanted their help or not, because they believed it was the right thing to do. Elder Dahayan's final report to the Mindari High Council contained a single sentence. They were warned never to use humans for war. Now the galaxy must learn to live with the guardians they created. The humans had won more than a war. They had won the responsibility of keeping peace in a galaxy that finally understood why they should never have been underestimated. Outside the station windows, human ships patrolled silently through space, watching over the celebration and making sure nothing disturbed the peace they had helped create. The galaxy was safe, whether it wanted to be or not. 3 months after the waste processing assignment, everything started to go wrong for the Galactic Federation. It began with the plague. Wujin Choi sat in his small laboratory aboard the human medical ship Bizun Hope. He was not supposed to be there. Humans were not allowed in Federation research facilities. But when the Red Death started killing Vorthek by the millions, every ship with medical equipment was called to help. The Red Death was a disease that turned Vorthek crystal bodies red before they cracked apart and died. It spread fast through their homeworld. In just 2 weeks, 50 million Vorthak had died. Wujin looked at his test results and felt sick. He had found the answer 3 days ago, but nobody would listen to him. The treatment is simple, he had told the Vorthik Medical Council. The disease attacks the mineral bonds in your crystal structure. If we introduce iron particles into your system, it will strengthen those bonds and stop the disease. The Vorthik doctors had looked at him like he was crazy. Iron? Dr. Kethver had laughed, his crystal body flashing with amusement. Primitive metal solutions? We are beings of pure crystalline perfection. We do not pollute ourselves with crude elements, but the tests show, Wujin had started. Your tests are worthless, another Vorthik doctor interrupted. We have decided to use pure light therapy. We will flood the infected areas with cleansing radiation. Wujin had tried to explain. That radiation would make the crystal sickness worse, not better. But they had ordered him out of the meeting. Now, a week later, the light therapy had failed completely. The radiation had made the Red Death spread faster. 100 million Vorthak were dead, and more were dying every hour, Wujin's communicator buzzed. It was Soyoung Nam calling from the Federation Medical Command Center. They're asking for more human medical ships, Soyoung said. Her voice was tired and sad. But they still won't let us treat patients directly. We can only carry supplies and clean equipment. Soyoung was the best doctor humanity had sent to space. She had saved thousands of lives in her career. But to the Federation, she was just another human worker. What about your proposal for the treatment? Wujin asked. Rejected again, Soyoung replied. They said human medicine is too primitive for Vorthik biology. They're going to try something called harmonic crystal restructuring instead. Wujin knew that would fail too. He had run the numbers. The harmonic treatment would take 6 months to develop and test. By then, there would be no Vorthik left to save. How many more have to die before they listen to us? He whispered. I don't. No, Soyoung said. But I'm starting to think they never will. While the Vorthik plague raged, another crisis hit the Federation. The Void Pirates had been attacking trade ships for months, but now they were getting bolder. Tae-1. Shin studied the star map in his quarters aboard the human transport Soul Star. Red marks showed where pirates had attacked Federation ships in the last month. There were too many red marks to count. The Federation's strategy was simple: send big fleets to patrol the trade routes. When pirates attacked, the fleets would respond and fight them in traditional space battles. It was not working. Taiwan had been a military strategist on Earth before joining the space program. He had studied every war humanity had ever fought. He knew the pattern he was seeing. The pirates were not fighting like an army. They were fighting like guerrillas. They hit fast, took what they wanted, and disappeared before the Federation fleets could arrive. When the fleets did find them, the pirates scattered in all directions. Taiwan had written a detailed plan to stop them. Instead of sending big, slow fleets, the Federation should use small, fast ships, hide them near likely targets. When pirates attacked, the small ships could respond immediately and capture the raiders before they escaped. He had sent his plan to Federation Military Command 6 times. Each time, they had sent it back with the same message: human tactical thinking is too aggressive and lacks sophistication. Yesterday, the pirates had attacked a medical convoy carrying supplies to help with the Vorthik plague. 15 ships destroyed. Thousands of people dead. Medicine that could have saved lives was floating in space as debris. Taiwan's plan could have prevented it. Small, fast ships hidden near the medical convoy would have caught the pirates easily. Instead, the Federation had sent a huge battleship to escort the convoy. The battleship was powerful but slow. When the pirates attacked from 6 different directions at once, the battleship could not protect all the medical ships. Now Admiral Vexhar of the Nexari was on every news channel, explaining that the pirate attacks were an unprecedented escalation that no one could have predicted. Taiwan threw his datapad across the room. He had predicted it exactly. He had told them it would happen. He had given them a way to stop it. They had ignored him. Because he was human. The third crisis was the power shortage. Energy costs were rising across the Federation. Old power plants were breaking down faster than new ones could be built. Several colonies had already lost power completely. Wujin had been working on more than just the Vorthic plague. In his spare time, he had been studying Federation power systems. What he found shocked him. They were incredibly wasteful. Federation technology was advanced, but it was not efficient. Their power plants used massive amounts of energy to create small amounts of electricity. It was like using a waterfall to fill a coffee cup. Wu Jin had developed a new type of reactor that used quantum resonance to multiply energy output. One of his small reactors could power an entire city while using less fuel than a Federation generator used to power a single building. He had sent the plans to the Federation Science Council. Dr. Morvik of the Rothani had reviewed them personally. His response was short and insulting. Human claims of quantum breakthroughs are impossible. This proposal violates several laws of physics and shows a fundamental misunderstanding of energy production. Please limit future submissions to practical matters within human comprehension. But Wujin knew his science was correct. He had tested it hundreds of times. The quantum resonance effect was real, even if Federation scientists were too proud to admit they had missed it. 3 days after his proposal was rejected, the power crisis got worse. 2 more colonies went dark. Manufacturing plants shut down. Hospitals lost life support systems. Emergency Federation meetings were called. Scientists from 12 species worked around the clock to find solutions. None of them thought to ask the humans. Minho Kim sat in the human diplomatic quarters and watched the news reports. Plague, pirates, power shortages, 3 major crises. And humanity had solutions for all of them. Solutions that nobody wanted to hear. We've saved them from 3 disasters, Unipark said as she entered the room. And they don't even know it. They don't want to know it, Jay and Lee added, joining them. It's easier to believe we're stupid than to admit they might be wrong. Minho looked at his friends. All 3 of them had given years of their lives to the Federation. They had worked hard, followed orders, and tried to help. In return, they had been ignored, insulted, and blamed. How many more people have to die, Minho asked quietly, before they start listening to us? Outside the window, Federation ships rushed back and forth, carrying supplies and soldiers to deal with the growing crises. Not one of those ships carried a human advisor. Not one Federation leader had asked for human help. They were too proud to learn from the species they saw as cosmic janitors, and across the galaxy, that pride was starting to cost lives. Kyung Soo-han woke up in his small quarters aboard the human research vessel Daegu Explorer. Red lights flashed through his window. Outside, Federation ships raced through space toward the Charis Nebula. Something terrible was happening. Kyung-soo worked as a Federation liaison. His job was to make sure human crews followed Federation rules. But really, he spent most of his time documenting how the Federation treated humans. Someone needed to keep records. He had been keeping very detailed records. All ships to emergency stations, came an announcement over the ship's speakers. Spacetime anomaly in Charis Nebula expanding rapidly. All civilian vessels evacuate immediately. Kyung-soo knew about the Charis Nebula problem. Everyone did. For 6 months, sensors had detected strange readings from the nebula. Space was bending in ways it should not bend. Time was moving at different speeds in different areas. The Federation Science Council had decided to fix it with a massive containment field. They would surround the entire nebula with energy barriers and force the spacetime distortions to stabilize. Wu Jin Choi had told them it would not work. Kyung-soo remembered the meeting 2 weeks ago. Wujin had shown his calculations to the Science Council. The containment field would not stop the anomaly. It would make it bigger. The distortions are feeding on energy input, Wujin had explained. Adding more energy will accelerate the expansion. We need to approach this differently. Dr. Morvik of the Rothani had dismissed him immediately. Human science is too primitive to understand space-time mechanics. Your fears are based on incomplete knowledge. The Nexari representative had been even more insulting. Perhaps humans should focus on tasks suited to their abilities. Leave advanced physics to species capable of understanding it. Now, as Kung-Su watched Federation ships desperately fleeing the nebula, he knew Wujin had been right. Han Yung was on communication duty when the first reports came in. "Containment field has failed," announced Captain Rithmar from the Federation flagship Eternal Victory. "The anomaly is expanding at exponential rates. All ships evacuate to minimum safe distance." Hound had been recording communications for months, every meeting, every decision, every time humans were ignored or insulted. She had gigabytes of data showing how the Federation treated humanity. "How bad is it?" she asked the Vorthok communications officer on the next station. "Bad," the crystal being replied, his body flashing with worried colors. "The anomaly has grown from 1 light year across to 50 light years in just 3 hours. At this rate, it will consume the entire carry system by tomorrow." "What about the colonies?" Hound asked. 17 planets, 40 billion people. The Vorthok's lights dimmed. "We are trying to evacuate, but there is not enough time." Hound felt sick. 40 billion people were going to die because the Federation had ignored human warnings. She opened her personal files and found Wujin's original proposal. In it, he had suggested a different approach. Instead of containing the anomaly, they should destabilize it in a controlled way. Let it collapse on itself harmlessly. The Federation had never even looked at the proposal. Captain Nari Co. was in the middle of a Federation emergency meeting when everything changed. The meeting was held by hologram. Representatives from all 12 Federation species appeared as glowing images around a virtual table. Humans were not normally invited to such meetings, but this was a crisis. They needed every ship to help with evacuations. "We need to assign blame for this disaster," announced Admiral Vexhar of the Nexari. "Someone must be held responsible for the failure of our containment strategy." Nari could not believe what she was hearing. Billions of people were dying, and they wanted to assign blame? "Our scientists assure us that the containment field was properly designed," continued Dr. Morvek. "There must have been sabotage or interference." "What kind of interference?" asked the Calvani representative. "The kind that spreads doubt and panic," Admiral Vexhar replied. "Certain species have been spreading fear about our methods, undermining confidence in Federation science." Nari realized they were talking about humans. "You cannot be serious," she said. "We warned you this would happen. Our scientists predicted exactly what we are seeing now." "Ah yes," Admiral Vexhar S. Cloud form swirled mockingly. "Human predictions. More likely, human interference caused the containment field to fail." "That is impossible," Nari protested. "We were not even allowed near the containment equipment." "Nevertheless," Dr. Morvek interrupted, "the Federation Council has voted. Humanity will be investigated for sabotage. All human ships are to be detained, pending inquiry." The other species around the table nodded or made agreeing sounds. To them it made sense. The containment field had failed, so someone must be to blame. Better to blame the newcomers than admit their own mistakes. "Furthermore," Admiral Vexhar continued, "humanity's membership in the Federation is under review. You have proven to be a disruptive influence on galactic peace and stability." Nari stared at the holographic faces around her. These beings were willing to blame humanity for a disaster that human science could have prevented. They would rather destroy innocent people than admit they had been wrong. Something cold and hard settled in Nari's chest. "I see," she said quietly. "Human ships will report to detention facilities immediately," Admiral Vexhar ordered. "Any resistance will be considered proof of guilt." Nari smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Oh, we will not resist." She cut the communication link and turned to her crew. Her bridge officers looked back at her with expressions of shock and anger. "Captain?" asked her first officer. "Send a message to all human ships and stations," Nari said. "Code 7, her crew exchanged glances. Code 7 was an old Earth military signal. It meant, "Mission failed, withdraw immediately, save what you can." "Are you sure, Captain?" her communications officer asked. Nari looked out at the expanding anomaly that was consuming star systems. 40 billion people were dying because the Federation was too proud to listen to human warnings. And now they wanted to blame humanity for the disaster. I am absolutely sure, she said. Tell all human vessels, we are going home. Within hours, the message had spread to every human ship, station, and outpost in Federation space. Minho Kim received it while overseeing waste processing operations in the Deneb system. Unipart got the signal during a routine maintenance job. Woojin Choi was treating plague victims when the message reached him. Code 7, go home. For the first time in months, humans across the galaxy smiled. They had tried to help. They had offered solutions, given warnings, shared their knowledge. In return, they have been ignored, insulted, and blamed. Now they were done trying. The Federation wanted to blame humanity for their failures? Fine, let them see what real failure looked like. Let them see what happened when the species they called primitive decided to stop helping. The withdrawal would be quiet and professional. No angry speeches, no dramatic protests. Humans would simply pack up their things and leave. The Federation had made their choice. Now they would live with the consequences. Jun Ko stood in the cargo bay of the human freighter Incheon Dawn, checking items off her list. Food processors, medical equipment, mining tools, water purifiers, everything humanity had brought to help the Federation was being packed up and taken away. How many ships do we have leaving today? She asked her assistant. 47 from this sector alone, came the reply. Captain Neri estimates we can have all human personnel out of Federation space within 2 weeks. June nodded. She had been the logistics coordinator for human operations in the Outer Rim for 3 years. She knew exactly how many humans were scattered across Federation space, and exactly what they were all doing. The Federation was about to learn the same thing, but they would learn it the hard way. What about the mining operation on Kepler 442? Her assistant asked. Shut down yesterday, June replied. The Federation thought they could send Calvani workers to replace our teams. Turned out the Calvani cannot work in the deep mines. Their metal shells overheat at those depths. And the waste processing plants? All offline as of this morning. The Rothani volunteers lasted exactly 6 hours before giving up. Apparently, handling garbage is beneath their dignity. June almost smiled. For years, the Federation had treated humans like they were only good for menial labor. Now they were discovering that menial labor was harder than it looked. Make sure we take all the technical manuals, she told her assistant. Every repair guide, every maintenance schedule, every troubleshooting protocol. Already packed, ma'am? Good. June looked around the cargo bay one last time. Everything useful was coming with them. The Federation had called human technology primitive. They could build their own replacements. Minho Kim was finishing his last diplomatic report when the Vorthek delegation arrived. Ambassador Kim, said Dr. Kethfer, his crystal body flashing with urgent colors, we must speak privately. Minho looked up from his desk. The Vorthek medical team looked desperate. The Red Death Plague was still spreading through their homeworld, and their harmonic crystal treatment had failed completely. I am afraid I no longer hold the rank of ambassador, Minho replied politely. The Federation revoked my diplomatic status yesterday. I am just a civilian now. Please, Dr. Kethfer sighed. We know your Dr. Choi had a treatment proposal. We need to discuss it. Dr. Choi is no longer available for consultation, Minho said. He departed for human space this morning. The Vorthek exchanged worried flashes of light. But the plague. Without treatment, our entire species could die. Minho stood up and began packing his personal items. That is unfortunate. But as Admiral Vexar explained, human medicine is too primitive for advanced species like yourselves. We were wrong, Dr. Kethfer said quickly. We admit it. Please, can you contact Dr. Choi? Can you ask him to return? I am sorry, Minho sighed, not sounding sorry at all. Dr. Choi is very busy setting up a new research facility in human space. He is developing treatments for species that actually want his help. The Vorthek team left looking defeated. Minho watched them go, then continued packing. For 10 years, he had tried to build bridges between humanity and the Federation. He had endured insults, dismissals, and condescension. He had watched brilliant human scientists be treated like ignorant children. Now the Federation wanted help, but it was too late. The bridges had been burned from the other side. Una Park was removing the last piece of equipment from Power Station Omega 7 when the emergency call came in. "This is Federation Engineering Command," said a panicked voice over the communicator. "We have a cascade failure in the Rigel system. All power grids are going offline. We need immediate assistance." Una looked at the human engineering team around her. They had built and maintained Power Station Omega 7 for 5 years. It provided clean energy to 12 planets in the local sector. "This is Chief Engineer Park," she replied. "I am afraid human engineering teams are no longer available for Federation assignments." "You cannot just leave?" the voice protested. "The power grids were designed by human engineers. No one else knows how to fix them." "That seems like a Federation problem," Una said calmly. "Perhaps you should have thought of that before calling. Our technology primitive." She cut the communication and turned to her team. "Load the last of the quantum resonance generators onto the ship. We are done here." As they worked, Una thought about the years she had spent maintaining Federation infrastructure. Humans had designed backup systems, redundancy protocols, and emergency procedures that kept everything running smoothly. The Federation had never bothered to learn how any of it worked. They had just assumed it would always be there. They were about to discover how wrong they had been all across Federation. "Space," the pattern repeated. Research stations went dark as human scientists departed, taking their data and equipment with them. Mining operations shut down when human workers left, and nobody else could operate the deep core extraction systems. Waste processing plants overflowed because no other species wanted to handle garbage disposal. Communication networks failed because humans had been the only ones who understood the compatibility protocols between different alien technologies. Most critically, the maintenance systems that kept everything running began to break down. For years, humans had been quietly fixing problems before they became disasters. They had prevented equipment failures, stopped system crashes, and solved compatibility issues that other species never even noticed. Now those problems started multiplying. "Sir," reported a nervous Nexari technician to Admiral Vexhar, "we are receiving failure reports from 17 systems. Power grids, communication arrays, life support systems, everything is breaking down at once. How is that possible?" "Admiral," Vexhar demanded, "these systems were working perfectly yesterday." "That is just it, sir. They were not working perfectly. The humans were fixing hundreds of small problems every day. Problems we never knew existed." Admiral Vexhar's cloud form darkened. "You are telling me that our entire infrastructure was dependent on primitive human maintenance?" "It appears so, sir." For the first time, Admiral Vexhar began to understand what the Federation had lost. The last human ship left Federation space on a Tuesday. Captain Nari SCO stood on the bridge of the New Sol and watched the border beacon fade behind them. Around her, a fleet of human vessels sailed into the unknown regions beyond Federation control. "Where are we going, Captain?" asked her navigation officer. "Somewhere we can build something better," Nari replied. Behind them, the Galactic Federation faced its first day without human help in over a decade. They would not enjoy the experience. 6 months after the humans left, the Galactic Federation was falling apart. Admiral Vexhar floated in his command chamber aboard the Federation flagship. Surrounded by reports of failure, power grids had collapsed in 47 systems. Communication networks were failing daily. The Void Pirates had destroyed over 200 merchant ships, and the Vorthak were dying. "Status report," Admiral Vexhar commanded. Commander Zikaloth of the Kalvani stepped forward, his metal shell clanking with each movement. "The situation continues to deteriorate, sir. The Rigel sector has been without power for 3 weeks. The Antares trade route is completely shut down due to pirate attacks. And we have lost contact with the entire Outer Rim. What about our repair efforts? Minimal success, sir. We have managed to restore power to 3 systems, but 5 more went offline yesterday. For every problem we solve, 3 new ones appear. Admiral. Vexhar's cloud form darkened with frustration. How is this possible? We are the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy. How can we not maintain our own infrastructure? Sir, Commander Zikaloth said carefully, our analysis suggests that the humans were more involved in our daily operations than we realized. Explain. They were not just doing manual labor, sir. They were solving problems constantly. Small problems that we never saw because the humans fixed them before they became big problems. Admiral Vexhar was quiet for a long moment. Finally he asked, how small? Yesterday, 7 food processing plants shut down because their air filtration systems clogged. It turns out humans were cleaning those filters daily. We never knew the filters existed. That is ridiculous. Surely our own engineers can clean air filters. Yes, sir? But we did not know they needed cleaning. The maintenance was never in any official manual. The humans just did it. Admiral Vexhar felt a cold feeling in his core. What else did they just do? Commander Zikaloth consulted his datapad. They calibrated sensor arrays every morning to prevent signal drift. They rerouted power during peak demand to prevent overloads. They updated software patches that no one else knew were needed. They replaced worn components before they failed completely. And they did all this without being asked? Without even being noticed, sir. We thought they were just cleaning and doing repairs. We had no idea they were preventing system failures. On the Vorthak homeworld, the situation was even worse. Dr. Kethver stood in the empty medical center where Wujin Choi had once worked. The crystal being's body flashed with desperate colors as he read the latest casualty reports. 2 billion Vorthak were dead. The Red Death Plague was spreading faster than ever. Every treatment the Vorthak Medical Council had tried had failed. Harmonic therapy, crystal purification, energy cleansing, nothing worked. Doctor, called his assistant. We found something in the human's old laboratory. Dr. Kethver hurried to the small room where Wujin had conducted his research. On the workbench was a single datapad with a message recorded in simple Federation standard. If you are watching this, Wujin's voice said, then you probably need the plague cure and I am probably gone. The treatment is simple. Ion nanoparticles introduced into your crystal matrix will strengthen molecular bonds and stop the disease progression. Detailed instructions are in File 7. Dr. Kethver activated File 7. It contained complete treatment protocols, dosage calculations, and manufacturing instructions. Everything they needed to save their species. At the bottom was a note. I recorded this 6 months ago when I first discovered the cure. I kept hoping you would ask for it. I kept hoping you would trust human science. I was wrong. But I still want to save your people. That is what humans do. We help even when no one asks us. Dr. Kethver began preparing the treatment immediately. Within days, Vorthak across the homeworld were recovering. The Red Death was finally defeated, but 2 billion of his people had died unnecessarily, because they had been too proud to accept. Help from humans. The Nexari Collective was having their own crisis. For the first time in their species' history, they could not reach consensus. The distributed minds that made up their collective consciousness were experiencing something unknown, doubt. They had gathered in their great thinking chamber to analyze the Federation's failures. But every analysis led to the same uncomfortable conclusion. The humans were essential, declared one part of the collective. Impossible, argued another. They were a primitive species, yet without them, we are failing. There must be another explanation. What if primitive does not mean useless? This thought caused a ripple of shock through the collective. For thousands of years, the Nexari had believed that advancement meant superiority. More evolved species were naturally better at everything, but the evidence was overwhelming. The primitive humans had been keeping Federation civilization running. New data, announced a monitoring section of the collective. The Void Pirates have adapted their tactics. They are now hitting targets the moment our patrol fleets leave the area. Success rate 97%. How are they predicting our movements? Analysis suggests they are using the same tactical principles that the human military strategist proposed 8 months ago. More ripples of shock. The pirates were beating the Federation using human tactics that the Federation had rejected. Recommendation, said another part of the collective. We should contact the humans. For what purpose? To ask for help. The thought hung in the collective consciousness like a discordant note. The mighty Nexari asking primitive humans for assistance, but as reports of new failures poured in, the idea began to seem less impossible and more necessary. Woojin Choi was very busy. He stood in his new laboratory on the human colony world of New Earth, surrounded by equipment that the Federation had called impossible. His quantum resonance reactors were providing clean energy to 12 different worlds. His medical research was saving lives across 3 star systems, and species were lining up to work with him. Dr. Choi, said Ambassador Krill of the Morph Commonwealth, our energy crisis is getting worse. Can your reactors help? The Morphs were a small species that the Federation had always ignored. They were not advanced enough to matter, according to Federation standards. But they were desperate, and they were willing to listen. Of course, Woojin replied. We can have a reactor operational in your system within a month. What do you require in return? Nothing you cannot afford. Technology. Sharing, mutual defense agreements, fair trade. We believe in partnerships, not hierarchy. Ambassador Krill's color patterns brightened with hope. The Federation never offered partnerships, only work assignments. We are not the Federation, Woojin said. Outside his laboratory, New Earth was bustling with activity. Ships from dozens of species came and went daily. The Morphs, the Viridian rebels who had broken away from their home government, the independent colonies that had declared freedom from Federation rule, all of them had one thing in common. They had been dismissed or ignored by the Federation. Now they were building something new with humanity. Sir, called his assistant. Long-range sensors are detecting a large fleet heading this way. Federation markings. Woojin was not surprised. He had been expecting this. The Federation was finally coming to ask for help. The Federation fleet arrived at New Earth on a cold morning. Min-Ho Kim stood on the observation deck of Orbital Station Unity and watched 12 massive warships take position around the planet. Each ship represented one of the Federation species. Even from a distance, they looked desperate. They certainly know how to make an entrance, said Una Park, joining him at the window. 12 battleships to ask for help, Min-Ho replied. That tells you everything about how they think. Kyung-Soo Han hurried onto the observation deck, carrying a data pad full of communication requests. The Federation fleet is demanding immediate talks with the human leadership. They want us to return to Federation space immediately. Min-Ho almost laughed. Demanding? Their exact words were, the human species will report for reassignment within 24 hours or face consequences. Una shook her head. They still do not understand, do they? No, Min-Ho said, they do not. Through the window they could see more ships arriving. But these were not Federation vessels. Ships from the Morph Commonwealth, the Free Colonies, the Independent Systems Alliance, all the species that humanity had befriended after leaving Federation space. How many allies do we have now? Kyung-Soo asked. 47 different species. Or governments, Una replied. More joining every week. And how many people? About 12 billion, not counting the human colonies. Min-Ho nodded. In 6 months, humanity had built a new alliance larger than some Federation sectors. They had done it by offering partnership instead of hierarchy, by sharing technology instead of hoarding it, by treating smaller species as equals instead of servants. Sir, called a communication officer. The Federation fleet is requesting permission to send a diplomatic shuttle. Grant it, Min-Ho said. Let us hear what they have to say. The Federation shuttle landed in New Earth's capital city 2 hours later. The diplomatic party that emerged was impressive. Admiral Vexhar of the Nexari, Dr. Morvik of the Rothani, Commander Zikaloth of the Kelvani, and representatives from all 12 Federation species. They were met by a simple human delegation, Minho Kim, Captain Nari Seo, and Dr. Woojin Choi. "Where is your leadership?" Admiral Vexhar demanded immediately. "We must speak to whoever is in charge of this rebellion." "You're speaking to?" "Our leadership," Minho replied calmly. "Impossible. You are just the former ambassador. Where are your real leaders?" "We do not have real leaders in the way you understand," Captain Nari explained. "We make decisions collectively. The three of us speak for humanity today." Dr. Morvek stepped forward, his wing arms flapping with impatience. "This is irrelevant. Humanity will return to Federation space immediately. Your departure has caused inconveniences. That must be corrected." "Inconveniences?" Woojin asked. "Is that what you call the collapse of your infrastructure?" "Temporary setbacks, Admiral," Vexhar insisted, "which will be resolved once human work crews return to their assigned duties." The three humans exchanged glances. Even now, even after everything that had happened, the Federation still saw humans as just workers to be assigned. "I am afraid." "That is not possible," Minho said. "Not possible?" Commander Zikaloth's metal shell clanked as he moved forward. "You will comply with Federation authority or face the consequences." "What consequences?" Captain Nari asked. "Economic sanctions. Trade blockades, military action if necessary." Minho smiled sadly. "You still do not understand what has happened, do you?" "What do you mean?" "Look around you," Minho said. "Do you see any Federation trade ships, any Federation merchants? Any Federation anything?" The alien delegation looked confused. "We do not need the Federation anymore," Woojin explained. "We have 47 allied species. We have our own trade networks, our own technology, our own resources." "What exactly are you going to sanction?" Admiral Vexhar's cloud form darkened. "You are a small group of rebels. The Federation represents thousands of worlds." "The Federation represents 12 species," Captain Nari corrected. "And from what we hear, half of them are ready to break away. The Vorthek are furious about the plague response." "The outer colonies are declaring independence. The minor species are joining our alliance." "You cannot destroy the Federation," Dr. Morvik protested. "We are not destroying anything," Minho said. "We are just not fixing your problems anymore." The meeting continued for hours, but the Federation delegation was not making progress. They offered work contracts with better pay. The humans pointed out that they were already earning more as independent researchers and engineers. They offered technology sharing agreements. The humans showed them technology they had developed that was far more advanced than anything the Federation possessed. They offered membership in the Federation Council. The humans asked why they would want to join a council that had spent 10 years ignoring them. Finally, Admiral Vexhar played his last card. "Very well," he said. "What do you want?" "Name your price for returning to Federation space." "Our price?" Minho considered this. Equal representation on the Federation Council. Full voting rights? Access to all Federation research? Mutual defense agreements. Technology sharing partnerships. "Done," Admiral Vexhar said immediately. "And formal apologies to every human who was dismissed or insulted." "Agreed." "And compensation for the species that died because you ignored our warnings." "What kind of compensation?" "Help rebuilding their worlds. Technology to prevent future disasters, medical aid, whatever they need." Admiral Vexhar was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "These terms are acceptable." Minho looked at his colleagues. Captain Nari shrugged. Woojin shook his head slightly. "I am sorry," Minho said, "but we decline." "What?" Admiral Vexhar's cloud form flared with shock. "But you just said those were your terms." "Those were our terms 6 months ago," Minho explained. "Before you blamed us for the Carries disaster. Before you called us saboteurs. Before you ordered our arrest." "We were wrong," Dr. Morvik said quickly. "We admit it." "Yes, you were wrong," Captain Nari agreed. "But admitting mistakes is not enough. You have to prove you have learned from them." "How?" Wujin stepped forward. Reform the Federation. Give real representation to all species, not just the 12 founders. Share technology freely instead of hoarding it. Stop treating advancement as a hierarchy. Prove that you can build something based on cooperation instead of domination. And then you will return. Then we will consider an alliance between equals, Minho said, not a return to servitude. The Federation delegation left New Earth that evening. As their shuttle disappeared into space, followed by the massive warships, Minho stood again on the observation deck of Orbital Station Unity. Do you think they will change? Yuna asked. Some of them might, Minho replied. The Vorthek are already implementing reforms after the plague disaster. A few other species are asking questions. And the others? The others will continue, as they always have until their system collapses completely. Kingsu joined them, carrying the latest reports from across the galaxy. 3 more Federation sectors have declared independence, he announced. The Rigel Commonwealth, the Antares Free State, and the Outer Rim Confederation? All of them are requesting alliance with us? Approved, Minho said. Also, we received a message from Dr. Kethver of the Vorthek. He wants to establish a joint medical research program. Send our acceptance. Yuna pointed to the window, where construction ships were building new orbital platforms. Look at that. 6 months ago, we were collecting garbage for the Federation. Now we are building a new galactic civilization. Built on partnership instead of hierarchy, Minho said. Built on respect instead of arrogance. Think the Federation will survive? Kyung-Soo asked. Minho watched the Federation fleet disappear into hyperspace, carrying their demands and threats back to a crumbling empire. That depends, he said, on whether they can learn to see other species as partners instead of servants. Whether they can admit that being advanced does not automatically make you wise, and if they cannot learn? Minho smiled, but there was no cruelty in it. Only sadness for what could have been. Then they will discover that pride comes before the fall. And the fall of an empire built on arrogance is always a very long way down. Outside the window, ships from dozens of species work together too. Build something new, something better. Something based on the revolutionary idea that every species, no matter how small or young, had something valuable to contribute. The Galactic Federation had ignored that lesson. They were still paying the price.